Woo! My name is Lavelle Deshaun Johnson. I'm an alcoholic. And so we're in the perfect chapter, starting at the perfect paragraph, if you ask me. Um, and hopefully we get to the part that I'd like to get to. Pages in here, and I'm going to tell her about herself when we see her. We're going to be able to write the resentment on because she's at the international and we're not, right? So I can vent my jealousy to you guys. You guys will help me get past it, right? And thank you, Terry. Wow, we iron sharp as iron. There's and I won't even say it. Self-centeredness. And he doesn't put a period there. He puts an exclamation point. Bill is not a waster of words or the way that he writes. That, we think, is the root of our troubles. Driven by 100 forms of fear, self-delusion, self-seeking, and self-pity. We step on the toes of our fellows and they retaliate. Sometimes they hurt us, seemingly without provocation. But we invariably find that at some time in the past or the present, we have made decisions based on self, which later placed us in a position to be hurt. And let me go back. I don't like to, when I'm reading the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous, I don't like to just insert, but as I'm commenting on something, I'll insert my own. So let me go back. But we invariably find that sometime in the past, we have made decisions based on self, which later placed us in a position to be hurt. And one of the things that I know to be true in my life today is that it's not always later placed us in a position to be hurt. Sometimes it's right now, at that moment, immediately. Because especially having information and knowledge about the spirit world today, right? And so to say I'm not operating with the same information that I operated with when I first got here. So something happens in the spirit world because I'm steady asking God to help me be rid of the selfishness and the self-centeredness, right? And not to make like we step on the toes of our fellows. How do I step on the toes of my fellows? You know, and in my mind when I first read this, I'm thinking like I step on somebody's toes and they got some real nice Jordans on, or brand new Stacey Adams, or some really nice, for you guys that live in the country. I'm in Dallas right now, in Texas. You step on somebody's snakeskin boots. I like it's somebody's cowboy boots, really nice rawhide boots, and then they sock you in the mouth, right? Like I'm a visual person, right? And I grew up in the city of Chicago, and when if this happened, you step on somebody's toe, they punch you, and that's what happens in the spirit world. My sponsor helps me to understand that, right? What happens in the spirit world is when I make decisions based solely on me, myself, and I. Now, he also had to help me understand that sometimes I have to be careful, because sometimes I'll get confused by, because if I'm in business, if I'm a business owner, I'm a manager of a business, I have to make certain decisions. Like I can't just, I was a district manager for a big company. They didn't hire me to come in and say, "Oh, you guys, let's come together and see what decisions you guys would like to make," right? They did that. Like they didn't pay me to do that. They paid me to come in, make decisions, run their company, and make profits for the company. And that was decisions made for the company. So I have to be careful. But then it also says here, and when I first heard this read, by somebody at a big book study, and again, I'm grateful that I have a sponsor around me that helps me to understand better information, and my hard drive continues to get updated. The mind is just like a computer. And if any of you guys have cell phones, it was a hard time getting my sponsor to get a new cell phone. He's 84 years old. He's been sober 54 years. So he's like he was still with the flip phone, right? I had to help him get these new smartphones, and then he always said the phone is smart, not the people, right? He said, so I still need help, right? And here, but he helped me to understand. It says driven by 100 forms of fear, and I hear people say, well, that's 500 forms. No, the book, Bill says exactly what he means. 100 forms of fear. Then he says, comma, self-delusion, because I'll delude myself in every imaginable situation. I'll think that you don't like me, that I have to do something to protect me. I'll think I need more women in my life because when I was 16 years old, when I was 15 years old, I had this girl that I thought cheated on me, but she really didn't cheat on me. But because I didn't have the information and I thought, so when I was thinking that, I thought that I was thinking that, that she, right? Right. See, I look, Eileen understands me, right? The craziness, the insanity I'll tell myself in my head. So I start living my life and my relationships with other women based on this one incident. And it literally had me so torn and my emotions so twisted and upside down, I tried to commit suicide. Um, Now here I am. I'm 15 years old, and I say that not. I don't want. Hopefully, the things that I say today, we don't get it caught up in sadness or anything like that. Because I'm not saying these things to be sad. I'm telling you guys these things, that the experiences that have happened in my life, and how this information has helped me to overcome that way of thinking. Einstein says this. This thinking has created some problems that this sort of thinking cannot solve. But then he also said, the same mind that created the problem can solve it. And there's a difference between my thinking and my mind, because my mind doesn't go away, right? I'm still going to have this thing in my head but when it's updated information, my thinking changes. And when my thinking changes, I have a better opportunity to not only save my life, but also the lives of the people around me. My sponsor always talks about collateral damage and the people that are around me. And that's what usually happens. That's why people retaliate, because I've made these decisions. That's why the wife wanted the divorce, right? That's why they fired me from the company, because I was stealing. How dare I? Bill is nice. He calls it padding the expense account, right? Right. But I don't realize why these things happen to me, because I'm making decisions based solely on my wants and not my needs, only my wants. Because as we continue to go on in this, I end up finding out the universe provides all my needs. Wow. I just want to make sure that I'm making better decisions today, not based on myself, solely based on myself. Because later on in the book, it talks about we can't ask for these things if they're, help others. So and you guys are continuously teaching me how to tell the difference between when I'm begging God and when I'm actually praying, right? Because I'm a beggar, right? Please do this for me. Do this for me. I need this. I need this. I need this. Come on, Terry.
Thank you, Ravel. Uh, yeah, there's a lot in that paragraph, and the sentence right after the paragraph says, "So our troubles we think are basically our own making." And I like to take statements and turn them into questions or considerations. This I like to look at a positive attribute as well. Do I think that my troubles are basically of my own making? And there's other areas in the big book that kind of give us that statement as well, right? That self-imposed crisis. I did it to me. Do I believe that my crisis in life was self-imposed? Right? And also on 133, it says, am I a deliberate manufacturer of misery? Do I believe that as well? Now, if you look at the positive traits of that, meaning um, the
Big
positive
work, sir.
aspect of that, oh, I'm sorry, if you please mute. If you look at the positive attribute of that, that means no one could take anything from you. That means none of your problems are outside coming in; they're inside coming out. And it starts with selfishness and self-centeredness. We're in column 4, right? That's what it's basically saying. I had a friend or a mentor say that the M dash goes into it, right? So we actually suffer from self-centered selfishness. That's why in this paragraph I'm going to read, it says this type of selfishness, we got to get rid of it. And because of that, I'm being driven, right? We talked about it last week. I'm in a cab driver looks back, hey, my name's Fear. Would you like to go today? Because I'm asleep, just getting driven around and I'm stepping on people's toes, like Lavelle's talking about. You're just in my blast radius, right? You got those snake boots on, right? I don't mean to do it. I'm just being driven. I'm not even making choices. And then you retaliate. I get angry. and then I'm making decisions based on self. That's column three, and then right back to column four. My troubles are basically of my own making. And do I believe that? I'm stuck in this cycle going round and round and round. It says they rise out of ourselves, not outside coming in, inside coming out. And the alcoholic is an extreme example of self-will run riot, though he usually doesn't think so. Now, I think, what does that mean? I always refer to Jim's story and Fred's story, and I look at the I, me, my's, right? The great I, the great my, the great for me, right? Just thinking about me, right? Now, I'll give you guys some context on that. Like, I don't feel like going to a meeting. That starts with an I, right? You know what? I don't want to, I don't really want to do back-to-back talks tonight. Honestly, I don't. Like, I'd much rather just hang out with you guys. I would rather not go to the Bronx tonight, but what? I don't feel like doing it. What's up with my bank account? Why aren't my sponsees doing the work? Don't they want what I have? Don't you want to do what I do? All right. All right. Like, what are they thinking about me? Why doesn't my boss acknowledge me at work? Me. See, I'm so self-consumed and self-absorbed thinking about me, right? And I don't think I'm being an example of self-will run riot. Now, there's nothing wrong with self-will. You're going to learn about that in the step 10. We're aligning our will with God thinking, right? The problem with us is we're extreme examples of it. Self-will run riot. The problem is the proper use of the will, we improperly use all the freaking time, right? Just like Lavelle was talking, the mind and our thinking. Our problem is our thinking is on a lower plane all the time. Hence the reason why when we get to step 11, our thinking will be on a higher plane, or what is it called? Our thought life, meaning our thoughts have a life of its own. So it says above everything, and I believe that's above alcohol, cocaine. And by the way, this is an all-inclusive study, Lavelle. So you could talk about drugs, alcohol, women, whatever. Whatever is bringing you to this all-inclusive study, you're welcome here. Above everything, whatever that you lost the power to choose with, whatever, doesn't matter. Even above that, above everything, we alcoholics or addicts must be rid of this. Have I talked about that? This selfishness, right? This part of our self-centeredness, this type of selfishness, we must, or selfishness kills us. That doesn't sound too good, right? And it says there often seems no way entirely getting rid of self, my little talker up here, without God's aid. Right. So many of us said, oh, I'm sorry, I just totally skipped a line. But we must, or it kills us. God makes that possible. Now, God makes that possible through actions 4 through 12, 4 through 9 on a day-to-day basis, right? I talk about this all the time. You can't stay sober off the experience you had 5, 7 years ago. You can't even stay sober off the experience you had yesterday. You kind of have to kind of give nourishment to the soul, grow up on a daily day basis, right? That's why I'm such a huge advocate of step 6. And God makes that possible through necessary actions that we put into it, participation from us, right? And there often seems no way entirely getting rid of self without God's aid. Many of us had moral or philosophical convictions of the Lord, but we could not live up to them, even though we would like to, right? Like, I want to be a nice guy. I want to be kind. I want to be gentle. I want to be forgiving. I want to be, patient. That's a big one. Impatient. I don't want to be slothful, but I always come up short. And Lavelle talked about that with Einstein, right? It's a sick mind cannot treat a sick mind. The same organ that brought you in here is not the same organ that's going to get you out of here, right? We need some type of power that's generated within you, which is that God consciousness or God or whatever you want to call it. But I always fall up short of this because I'm living a life based on self and I'm making decisions based on my thinking when I'm constantly in an agnostically inclined thought process all the time, thinking, I got this, I, me, my, I, me, my. I caught myself doing that the other day, thinking about all the things all the worldly clamors, all within myself. And the thing is, I'm so disturbed. I was talking about this last night when I was reading with a couple of guys. The whole point of what we're doing here is to become undisturbed. You know, if I'm disturbed all the time, meaning I'm listening to a story and a narrative in my head, right? And I'm gonna try and play catch up. I'm gonna self will my way into joy or self will my way through the steps. I mean, who's used the steps to manage and control their life? I have. Oh, I'm gonna write inventory. Find out what's blocking me. Or I'm gonna go force amends on you. You know, like, or I'm gonna go bash people with a big book and try and get them to read with me. That doesn't work. And I'm using the steps. I'm managing and controlling the steps. I'm playing God. I'm playing God. And here's the connection between selfishness and drinking and drugging. If I don't get off stage and I continue to have a script for you, I don't send it to you, right? And you continuously go off that script all the time, and you're just in my blast radius. It's just in my way, and I'm constantly stepping on your toes because I'm making a decision that I think is the right thing. I think I'm doing the right thing with a kind motive, right? If I don't get off that stage and I stop playing the role that I assigned myself, what's going to happen is I'm going to collide with you. Remember we talked about collision, right? Disturbance, right? I'm going to collide with you and you're going to retaliate and I'm going to get angry. I'm going to get really pissed off. When I get angry, there ain't no God there. I go dark when I get angry. I play ESPN in my head. I replay that. Da-na-na, da-na-na, how much I hate this person, right? And I'm going to go into self pity, or I'll say, "How dare you?" And I'll think, "Drink solution, drink answer." Right? It says, "Neither could I reduce my self centeredness." Important, self centered. I can't reduce it by wishing or trying on my own power. That goes back to lack of power. I lack the power to pull this off. I need an acquisition of power. I need a relationship with power to step from bridge to shore. Hence the reason why we're going to say we have to have God's help. Now, that's a statement. Turn that into a question. Do I believe I need God's help? A- absolutely. Absolutely. Looking at the last two pages, like I see myself in these pages when I put in the first person, when I read it in the I statement, or I take statements and I turn it into questions. It is literally me to the T. It's so scary because it's true. And this is how I lived my life for so long. I mean, we were just talking about this yesterday, last night when I was working with those two guys. We were reading the chapter Two Wives. By the way, don't gloss over that chapter. One of my favorite chapters in the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous. And we were reading this, and it hit my guy that I was working with. It just hit him like a ton of bricks. And it realized he had that realization that he had no idea how much pain and agony that he put other people through. You know why? Because most of our life we never considered what other people felt or seen or thought. Why? Because we thought about us, me, all the time. And what's going to happen if I'm thinking about me, I'm going to have an insane thought come in and I'm going to think about, let's go get high and let's go get drunk. And I need God's help with this. All right, back to you, LaBelle. Thanks.
Man, I listen. I don't like you, right? I really don't like you. What do you mean I need God's help? I can do this, and so somebody like me, and I'm sorry for being off the camera. I'm gonna put a shirt on in a second. I had to pop my teeth in and get out the bed because because I almost forgot. You know, I'm an old man, and I forgot. And Terry said, "Hey, we're on now," and I'm like, I'm stuck in I'm stuck in Dallas, and I'm not stuck. So I was just fortunately had the opportunity to purchase a truck, and I came and got it this weekend, and it just happened to be the July 4th weekend, so there's no loads I can get, so I'm here, you know, and it is what it is, and in my situation, this is God's plan. Uh, Children are grown. My family's all over the place doing their thing. So it's not like I, negated, neglected my family or anything and got out. I just had to do what I have to do because I need to be fully self-supporting, right? Or else I'd be begging y'all for money, Clarissa. But so, you know, listen. So as I said, my sponsor's been sober 54 years, and he gets on my last, middle, and every nerve in my body most of the time, because he gives me this stuff, and he'll say stuff like that. Well, we had to have God's help. What do you mean? See, I have a scientific mind. I came in Alcoholics Anonymous educated, right? I'm a smart dummy, right? Right. I came in with all these degrees. By the time I got here, I was 33 years old. I got a master's degree in mathematics and English. So not only do I have a scientific mind, I also know how to articulate, right? So I'm a real smart dummy, right? so, so my sponsor helps me to, get into this stuff because um, I think that this operates everything, the alpha, the omega. That's how I used to think, Janice. I'm getting a little bit better, right? Right. I don't want to get ahead of myself. I'm getting a little bit better. I'm still ing. That's what my great grandfather used to always say. He said, the moment that I think I got something, I'm in trouble. I'm always ing, and I'm always learning, growing, understanding. And here where it says, so our troubles, we think, thinking is starting to change. You see, before I got here, I didn't have this kind of thinking. Troubles, we think, by the time I get to this page, because I've gotten so much more information from my sponsor or from somebody in Alcoholics Anonymous, somebody that has helped guide me through this information, we think are basically of our own trouble, of our own making. What? Terry went back to it where it says, avoid then the deliberate manufacture of misery. See, when my sponsors say stuff like that, because I come to them with a problem, crying and whining, like, this, she did this to me, they did that to me, and I don't understand why. And he say, so your troubles are basically of your own making, right? And I be wanting to say your mama, right? Because I don't curse or use, I don't curse at my sponsors. So I just be wanting to say something to him that hurt his feelings too, right? But then he always takes me to page 35 of the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous. And I didn't know this for a long time. He would always, every time I had something going on in my life, and I've been sober a little over 23 years now, and every time I've had a situation in my life, in Alcoholics Anonymous, I've been divorced, I've lost a business, I've lost millions of dollars. Like I've had stuff happen to me here sober. And I would go to him crying about something, and he would say, he would, whoo, this man gets on my nerves. He would say, most alcoholics had to be pretty badly mangled before they really commenced to solve their problem. Andrew knows that one, right? Right. And he would always, and I'm like, dude, why are you steady repeating the same thing to me? But I don't get it the first 1 billion, 16 trillion, 24 million, 18 billion times. I just like I'm a still in case cue ball knucklehead. Yeah, I just don't get it. So I'm making these mistakes. And some of them are the same mistakes that I'm making because I'm still living by self-propulsion that it talks about in We Agnostic. So I get to this, I get to this point. And yes, I'm moral and philosophical convictions galore. Like I know what it is to be a good person. I know what it feels like. I grew up with the very picture discipline is. And my grandmother physically gave birth to 21 children. Right? Clarissa said, wow, Janice's hips started hurting. Right? but then I got one for the guys. Grandfather was the father of all 21 children. Yes. So on their headstone, they're both buried together. On their headstone, it says proud parents of 21 children. So I saw my grandfather be there, raised all my aunts and uncles and my mom. Like I saw what discipline was supposed to be like. I saw what love and kindness was. And if there's a Jesus in heaven, my grandmother is sitting right next to him. Now that I believe. Now am I a Christian? I am everything today. Um, and I heard my friend Terry say agnostically inclined. I'm an agnostic today after 23 years. And that's not. Some people say, how can you be sober that long, work the steps, sponsoring people, and be an agnostic? The word agnostic just means without knowledge. I don't believe I have the full knowledge of God because I sponsor people who are consider themselves atheists. I sponsor people who are Buddhists. I sponsor people who are Christian, Muslim. I sponsor all from different religious sects. And I see the good in all of them. Our book says, be quick to see where religious people are right and make use of what they offer. I used to be quick to see where they was wrong and how they was getting on my nerves, right? Right. So now I've gotten to a different position. And I remember hearing my great grand sponsor, James Willis Hodges, he used to always say, because people, and I hear it now, I was in a meeting the other day and somebody said, well, maybe, the big book needs to be rewritten and we need to take that word God out of here because it can run the new people away. My sponsor is not a religious person. My grand sponsor, she was not very religious. My great grand sponsor was not into religion. My great grand sponsor called God she, and he left this universe with 62 years of sobriety. And I've seen the most spiritual stuff come from him. But he would say this. He said, if the word God runs them out, alcohol will run them right back in. Right? So because I'll come in, and then my sponsor always says stuff like this. How can you be angry with something you don't believe? Wow. I don't get caught up in other people's belief system. That's your system. The moment I get caught up in it, the moment I tell you it doesn't make sense, the moment I deny you the existence of your God. And that's what this is about. Like he can choose whatever conception he likes, provided it makes sense to him. That's what our book says. Provided it makes sense to him, her, it, whatever you want to identify as, right? That's it. And doesn't say I had to have Terry's help, Kevin's help, Trey's help. It said we had to have God's help. Wow. Now, because of my way of thinking, because of my understanding today of the spirit world, you sisters and brothers are the God to me. You guys are my connection to the source. Like I just believe that, and I'll never stop believing that. I don't care how my mind changes, how long I stay sober. You guys are the connection, because I'll come up with my own conscious rationalization about what God is saying to me without help from sisters and brothers like you. I need to bring you my information. I need to communicate with you, like the set-aside prayer that we say today, right? I need help. Of myself, I am nothing. With my thinking on my own, I'm in trouble. Right? Yeah, I'm out to lunch. like all the time, right? But with you guys, and maybe one or two of us can get together and be out to lunch together, but not all of us, right? Right? Lisa came in. Lisa like, yeah, we in Florida. I'm definitely out to lunch, right? Right? So see, I can be look, but if I get with all you guys, if we have somebody in here gonna say, "Fool, y'all crazy," and then we're gonna have to say, "Wait a minute, maybe what Janice says makes sense. Let's ponder this." Janice says, "Me?" Right? Yeah, yeah, Janice, right. Somebody got to have some sense in here, because I ain't got none, right? Not that I don't have none, I ain't got. The 12 and 12 says, I'm especially stupid and stubborn when it comes to relationships. That's how I step on the toes of my fellows, and they retaliate. Man, listen, I have God help. I'm going to read this paragraph quick, Terry, and give it to you. This is the how and why of it. So one of the things I love about Bill W. is he doesn't, this is an instruction manual. I know, people say, well, it's based on experience. It's based on this. Yeah, it's based on my experience with the instructions. Because the experiences that I've come in here with, if I give them to you, we all going like we going somewhere past hot, right? Like we going off the rails. And I'm telling you, because all the things that have happened to me on my way here, some of the experiences that happened to me based on somebody else's insanity, right? Being molested as a child by my uncle and my babysitter. That was their sickness. That was their illness, not mine. Thank God you guys helped me to understand that. So I don't have to be angry. I don't have to be caught up in that. I don't have to let that steady rule my life. I don't have to let that steady damage relationships. I don't let that have to really mess up my idea of sex, right? Because that was theirs, not mine. But then I was making decisions based on self. I got kidnapped on the west side of Chicago, getting involved into the same lifestyle my father did. I got kidnapped. They beat me, shot me, stabbed me, and left me in the alley for dead. Had it not been for a lady like Clarice's like, wow, right? Like, look, Clarissa, I'm really not supposed to be here, but thank God that the universe is always conspiring on my behalf without my permission to save my life. Because I didn't come in with my hands up. I didn't come in, willingly accepting this. I knew internally that something was wrong with me. I just didn't know what, and I wanted help. Everything in me wanted safety, wanted love, wanted understanding, wanted like everything in me. Dr. Carl Jung says, low level of connection, right? Our thirst, right? Man, listen, like it at a time fulfilled something. The things that I used to escape, whether it was drugs, alcohol, sex, gambling, whatever that detachment from the universe was, um, you guys have given me that. You guys have given me that back. You say, hey, we're here. You don't have to try and connect to anything else today, LaBelle. Even when you're sad, even when you're feeling lonely, even when you're feeling disconnected, because we felt that way. We understand. Come on over here. Talk to us. We'll help you get through it. That's what I was looking for. I didn't have anybody around me that was telling me, I'm okay. I hear you, David. David gets on my nerves. He tell me I'm lying. He say, stop lying. Because you had a bunch of people around you to tell you what. But I wasn't listening. I told y'all I'm a still in case cue ball knucklehead. But Bill says this is the how and why of it. He's given us instructions. The big book says it's the basic text for our society, right? A textbook is meant to be studied, not read like a novel. And if I own a business, if I work for a company, they give me what's called a standing operating procedure, the SOP. The big book of Alcoholics Anonymous is the SOP for my life. Standing operating procedures. That's all I need. Like if you go to your job and you don't pay attention to, even if you're in the union, whatever you like, if you don't pay attention to what you're allowed to do and not allowed to do, you can get fired. Standard operating procedures. I don't want to get fired today. I don't want to I love my job today. And it has all the benefits in the world. See, when I plug into the source, I don't have to worry about the resources. See, when I'm living on self-propulsion, then I'm worried about resources, right? I'm worried about how I'm going to get this, how I'm going to do this, how I'm going to make this thing happen. Now, Terry said it. Don't get it confused. Self-will is still necessary, right? Nothing. I can't do anything unless I'm actually taking the necessary steps to do it. But I still have to have help. I still have to have guidance. I still have to have a sense of direction. And that's the God. It says, first of all, we had to quit playing God. It didn't work, right? Look, my life proved it. It didn't work, right? Even after getting kidnapped and being in a coma, after getting shot, coming out of the hospital, I still was right back into the life. Life was having its way with me. And I'm talking not just the drugs, life was having its way with me. I drank because life was having its way with me. I didn't drink because I'm an alcoholic and I can't drink because of the condition of my body, what goes on with me when I start drinking, right? That's what and it really takes me away from everything. But the reason I drank because I did not like the way I felt behind the decisions that I made that destroys the people's lives that were around me. I'm in Alcoholics Anonymous today because my granddaughter just called me the other day. She wants me, she asked me, the crash test dummy, to take her for orientation to college. What? Man, listen, that's why I'm here. I'm not here because I'm afraid of drinking. I'm here because of the relationships that I continue to strengthen as a result of this change of thinking. Next, more instructions. We decided that hereafter, in the drama of life, because I'm a drama queen, right? Right, right. Because I want what I want when I want it, right? I want it my way. Really, I want it, right? And I'm like Stewart off Mad TV. I don't know if you guys ever watch Mad TV. Stewart was this 40-year-old kid that was always with his mom, and he was always talking about, look at what I can do, right? And he wasn't doing anything, but he just wanted people to pay attention to him, right? Drama of life, that's what I'll create. It says God was going to be our suggester. Oh, yeah. See, Lisa caught that. Yeah, y'all caught that. God was going to be our director. Doesn't suggest things to me. He has permission from me to give me instructions in my life. If I ask him a question, if I'm asking, because I trust his decision making, I trust it. God was going to be our director, not our suggester. He is the principal. We are his agents. He is the father, and we are his children. Most good ideas are simple. But people say, well, it's a simple program for complicated people. My sponsors say, no, shut up, don't you ever say that again. Because I'll parakeet what I hear other people say, right? Right? Because it sounds like it makes sense. But the wonderful part about getting understanding this information, my sponsors say is no. It's a simple program for people like me who like to complicate things. He said, I ain't complicated. Even a baby know I'm a fool, right? He said, baby be pointing talking about fool, right? Right? So I ain't complicated. I just like to complicate things. The universe didn't make us complicated creatures. The universe made us in the way that they made us. In the universe, it has its nature and laws. And anytime I go against what has already been created, I get back in direct proportion of the way that I put things out. That's simple. Half measures availed us nothing. Right? If I half-heartedly do something, I'm going to get half out of it, right? And with business, life, anything else. And then it says here, good ideas are simple. And this concept, so this very thinking, Bill just used these different words, right? This very thought process, this concept was the keystone. Wow. I live in Chicago and it has such great history. There's a chapter in the back of the book by Sylvia Kay, Keys to the Kingdom. I've got the key. Page 55, deep down inside every man, woman, and child is the fundamental idea of God. It may be obscured by pomp, calamity, or worship of other things, but in some form or other, it is there. That's that voice inside of me that says, don't go over that, Lavelle. Don't do that. Put them people money back. Right. You have a wife at home. Leave that woman alone. Right. I don't know about you guys, but after I was in the back of the police car with the handcuffs on, I was saying to myself, I should have listened to my first mind. Man, that's that inner voice. Somebody's usually around me telling me something too. Man, you shouldn't do this. I don't, but because I think that, what they thinking is that, and then I really feel that they're just talking at me and not to me. And I'm like, how dare you? And I don't like the way I don't like the way they make me feel because of the actions that I've taken. So then I get more rebellious. And then I'm doing stuff to not only hurt me, but in my mind, I'll say I'm only hurting me. But the reality is all of the collateral damage. It's all this collateral damage. Thank you, Terry, also for talking about the to the wives, right? The people call them the lost chapters, right? To the wives, to the employees, the family afterwards. Those chapters, boy, listen, if you really want some great instructions, man, I'm so glad my sponsor didn't let me skip that stuff after we got through with working with others. And I do a big book, and we go all the way through because it's so much instructions in there. It says here, keystone of the new and triumphant arc through which we pass to freedom. Wow, I have the key, and you guys have allowed me to pass to freedom until I get back in the self will. See, until I get until I get back. Y'all look like y'all old enough to know who James Brown was, right? James Brown used to always say, "I just want to get up and do my thing," right? So the moment I try to get back up and do my thing, but as long as I'm doing the thing that the universe has set for me, I'm better off. I don't always make the best decisions. I don't always show up as the best version of myself. I'm getting better at it. But you sisters and brothers love me until I get better. Terry?
Thank you, Lavelle. That was awesome. I think my favorite word on page 62 is the last word on that page, freedom. And, I don't know. I've always wanted to achieve freedom, but I've always felt relief. Felt like freedom. It was kind of like an illusion. Uh, Once I finally made that decision that he was everything, and that God was my father, director, and principal, and I was his child actor and agent. Remarkable things started. I stepped from British Shore, right? And on top of page 63 and before, again, by the way, I do have to jump off at 8:50. Lavelle, if you want to keep going until 9, you're welcome. Or if you want to stop, it's up to you. Um, but we'll go from there. I'll pass along the post to you. I have to speak to the Bronx at 9, so thank you for your patience. And so it says, when we sincerely took such a position, so what position? That God is my father, my director, and and he's my principal. Right? And I recommend that if I didn't know what any of that meant, what is a father, what is a principal, what is a director, I thought I knew it, but then I recommend that you look up the definitions of those, like principals, the chief acting as an authority of an agent. The agent is someone who's empowered by an authority. Like I didn't understand it, what I was actually giving my life to, or direction to. So I recommend that you look up those words just to give you some clarity while you go through this process. And all sorts of remarkable things followed. I had a new employer. So what happened to the old employer? That was me. I had to get rid of him. He sucked. He really sucked at life, right? So he's the employer. That makes me an employee. That means I listen to the employer. You tell me to do something, I go do it. That God consciousness, like he was talking about on page 55, right? That little intuitive sense that says, yeah, don't run that red light, Lavelle, while you're driving right now, stop, and then I'm like, screw that, let's go, but and the whole thing is I'm supposed to listen to that, right? I have a new employer. So being all powerful is I think you could sum up this entire program with this sentence. God provided what I needed if I kept close to him and I performed his work well. And how do I keep close to him? By getting rid of all the things that are blocking me off to have a unionship and a partnership with this power. By using, it's not just being using the 12 steps, but taking these actions that are called the 12 steps that are just getting me back to harmony with this power that I've always had. It's always been there. I just was never aware of it because I was living up here in little fantasy la la land, right? So now I'm living in unionship with this power by going through the steps. That's what the steps are designed to do, to get me back to right here, right now. Ralph W. says the book is not the treasure, it's a treasure map to this power. You live with this power. But then here's the biggest part, and perform his work well. And how do I perform his work well? By having a servant's heart. All right, having a servant's heart. And I think Bob D would talk about it. He said, I came into AA, a big shot, worked my way all the way up to servant, yeah, all the way to the top spot. You know, and I love what you were talking about. Like, I need people in my life to, hold me accountable. Iron sharpens iron. I need people to be conduits and messengers of this power. I need the fellowship of Alcoholics Anonymous more than I ever thought. And in order for me, like my relationship with God today is contingent upon my relationship with you, with his children. If I'm treating his children like crap, I'm not going to have a relationship with this power, period. Like that's what it is. And I'm not going to have a servant's heart. I'm just going to be thinking about me all the time. All right. Hence the reason why, persistence is probably my favorite word in the big book. This stuff is not easy because my mind could creep back and say, yeah, you don't need to pick up that guy's call. Uh, you know, you don't have to, listen to that fifth step that day. Just chill out. You had a hard week. Like no, I have to do this self-sacrifice stuff. I mean, Lavelle and Ralph just talked about self-sacrifice and work. We couldn't survive a certain low spots and trials ahead. Like I'm not going to survive jack if I'm constantly ignoring God's children. And not being useful and giving my time for away for fun and for free. I mean, what's the most precious thing I have is time. And I get paid by the hour. Like I don't, people don't pay me, to hang out with them today. Like I don't ask for money. I just love it. It becomes secondary. It says that in Vision for You. It's just I love doing this stuff today. Like just something just comes alive when I just start reading this book or I start talking recovery, stuff like that. So established on such a footing, what footing? Meaning that I'm keeping close to God or drawing close to God and performing his work well. I became less and less interested in myself. Stop thinking about me. Because I started thinking about you. It's because I started to develop this love muscle inside of me. That's always been there. I just never worked it out. Or this consideration muscle that's inside of me. It was always there. I just never worked it out. I started caring about you, right? And it says I became more and more. We became interested in see what we could contribute to life. Man, I was a taker. Like I was a taker my entire life. But today I'm a giver. I want to give away. Like I want to be useful to other people to make them feel happy, not to make myself feel happy, not that people pleasing stuff. Right? I just want to. There's no strings attached with me, right? I'm just like, look, I'm just going to give away my time for fun and for free, and because it feels good. I like doing that. Not because I want you to like me, but just because I'm getting right with my relationship with God. Because my life is contingent upon my relationship with you. So as I felt new power flow in, hold on, time out. I thought I was powerless. Oh, hold on. No, it means I'm gonna have an acquisition of power, a relationship with this power. So I'm gonna have a new power flow in. I'm gonna enjoy peace of mind. I mean, my mind would shut up in the beginning of recovery. Now I could sit in my couch and just be perfectly content, not worried about the past or the future, just kicking it in God's country right here, right now. So, and it says I could face life successfully. Like bad stuff's gonna happen, but I could face it. It's gonna be. I live my life from moment to moment to moment today, and I don't want to try and arrange things, arrange the lights or whatever it says. I just live in the moment. This is what I'm going to do because there's a lot of things that happen in our lives. Life is welcome back to the land of the living, everyone. It's not easy. So most of the time I was drunk. Now I face it successfully because I have a relationship with power today. As I became conscious of God's presence within, I began to lose my fear of today, tomorrow, and the hereafter. That's a lifelong process, right? I was reborn, and reborn means that something's got to die. Like we made our decision on the previous page. Third step prayer is an affirmation, a confirmation of our decision. All right. Guys, I do have to head out. Lavelle, I'll head it over. I'll swing it over to you. If you could just keep going. I don't care how long you want to go, but
Now,
you
now
know,
they like we care, right?
yeah. But guys,
So,
it's been a pleasure. Lavelle, thanks for joining us, man.
man,
I
I love you,
appreciate
and
it. I
I'm
really
right
appreciate it.
behind you, so I can come heckle you.
Oh, okay, damn.
But
All right, later, guys.
I want to finish this paragraph out, and then I saw some people put some comments in the um, in the chat and was talking about one young lady was talking about she's been crying incredible. Like I've been caught up in over these last these years that the alcohol has been removed. The We Agnostic says setting aside the drink question. So now that I'm no longer drinking, I'm gonna have these things that come up. I'm gonna have these feelings of separation. That's why I drank. I drank because of the feelings of separation. I got high. Whatever I did to escape reality. That's why I did it. I'll wake up. Listen. Just last week, I was the walls were closing in on me. I was sitting at home because some things that I've just recently experienced. I'm sitting, I'm crying, I'm going through this thing in my head, and I'm asking God, why me, why me? And people around the A always say, well, God gives it's what do they say? God gives his something to his strongest soldiers. I don't want to be strong no more. Right? Like, I don't want to be strong no more. Like, give it to somebody else. I'm good. Dude, I served 8 years in the army. I got an honorable discharge. I'm a soldier that's look. I've been discharged. Like, don't give me no more. But what happens is I make decisions based on self, which place me in a position to be hurt. When I make those decisions, and then sometimes I can have people around me that makes decisions based on themselves, and I happen to be part of their collateral damage. I never thought about it like that. Wow. See, I don't realize that in relationships, whether they're romantic, platonic, job, whatever the relationship is, they have the same self-will that I have. But our big book says that I'm an extreme example of self-will run riot. Usually I don't think so, right? Right? Because I don't think I'm the problem, right? It's got to be you. It's got to be you. It can't be me. When we sincerely took such a position, what position? When I took the position that I am no longer running the show. I do have to make some decisions. I do have to take some action, but I have somebody else's thinking that's stronger than my insanity. That's the position I'm taking. All sorts of remarkable things follow. We had a new employer being all powerful. He provided what we needed if, here's the condition, the universe will provide what I need if we kept close to him and performed his work well. Her work well, it worked well, whatever your, whatever you want to establish on such a footing. Now that's telling me I was off balance, right? I was off balance. Established on such a footing, we became less and less interested in ourselves. It didn't say we just totally became I'm not never just interested in myself. I like me. I like me today a little bit more than I did before I got here, right? I like me a little bit more. That's why I got me some new teeth, right? I like the clothes that I wear. I like that I get my, I get my hair cut. You ladies get your hair done. I'm still interested in me some, right? It says our little plans and designs. More and more, we become interested in seeing what we could contribute to life. When I'm trying to see what I can give to something rather than what I can get out of it, things change. I sponsor people that, and I used to be one of those guys. So let me, okay, I hear you, David. David say, don't just put that off on your sponsees, tell on yourself, right? Showing up at meetings and I say, well, I don't like what they saying. I don't like what they doing. I don't like how they do this. I don't like, he said, well, what did you go to see what you can add? Stop being a taker. Now, the reality is, there's just some people going to run. In some places, I just don't need to go. My great grand sponsor used to always say, he said, all meetings are good meetings. All meetings are just not good for me. Right? See, why I had some people in my life that really opened my whole perspective up about things, right? And just helps me to change. As we felt new power flow in, and Terry just talked about this, right? As we enjoy peace of mind. It didn't say as we enjoy a peace of mind. It says as we enjoy peace of mind. Bill, man, whoa, this guy, and see, for me, I'm my degree is in English and mathematics, so I love writing, I love reading, I love this information. As we become conscious of His presence. Again, I tell you guys, I'm an agnostic. I call God she today, and I'm okay with that. But I read the big book just as it is. I don't have to get caught up in the wording. I don't have to get caught up in semantics. I don't have to get caught up in what my power is and your power is. I don't have to gang bang about that. All I do is just read the words as they are, right? I'm again in my life today. My sponsor says, how can you be angry with something you don't believe? So I don't have to fight with this, right? If I'm angry with it, that means I got something against it, right? It says we begin to lose our fear of today, tomorrow, or the hereafter. It doesn't say today, yesterday. It says today, tomorrow, or the hereafter. He don't say nothing about yesterday. Because see, my fear is right now today. My fear is what's happening tomorrow. My fear is how am I going to be able to pay my mortgage in August and September? How am I going to be able to get groceries? How am I going to be able to get the surgery I need? How am I going to be able to get this license plate? How am I going to be able, right? See, tomorrow and the hereafter, like I'm stuck in it. But the reality is, if I go back up here, I took such a position. I sincerely took it. Bill is not a waster of words. He could have just said, if we take such a position. He said, if we sincerely took such a position. And I like the last three words of that paragraph. It says, we were reborn. And then some people say, see, that's all that Christian word and all that. No, it's not. It's not. Listen, I've been, not only do I sponsor all these people that have been part of these all different faiths and all that stuff, I was a Black Hebrew Israelite. I belonged to the Church of Scientology when I lived in California. I was a Muslim, a Christian, Baptist. Like I've been dipped, dumped, and almost drowned trying to get to the spiritual launching pad. Right? I've been a part of all of them. But one of the things that you sisters and brothers have taught me that all men, right in our big book, and we agnostic, it says all men of faith have courage. all men, all women, all whatever your description might be, all these people who followed it says they trust their God. That's all I need to see. When Lisa says, when Trey says, when Kevin says, when Janet says, when Clarissa says, when Eileen says, when you guys say, hey, this is what I believe and I trust it. This is what I follow and it has done miraculous things in my life. And I see that. Who am I to deny that? You guys took a disbeliever and made him a believer. And I thank you for that. And that's what this thing is. I sincerely took such a position. We got a couple more minutes. If you guys want to pop in or anything before, and you tell me when we close out. So I'm done. My book is closed. You guys decide when we end the meeting. I'll open it up for you guys want to talk or say something. Come on, Lisa.
First of all, thank you for just delighting me with this wonderful hour. It's a godsend because I'm going back to California. My mother's in a bad position and all this stuff. And this is just hitting home. If I can just remember that God is the director and get out of the way, because I know what I want. I want to pull mom out of this, home situation. I want to get in there. I want to fix, I want to control. Wait a minute. This was just profound, and I need to just remember to sincerely take the position that God, he's running the show, and I'm not to do anything until he gives me the peace about it. And it's going to be hard. It's going to be hard because I'm in Florida, she's in California, and she's not in a good space. But I can't just get in there and try to grind it up because I might really mess some things up.
Yes.
So thank you so much. I really, really love how you broke this down tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Well, thank you, Lavelle. Tracy, alcoholic.
I'm Tracy.
Sorry, I'm in Chicago too, but I was going to tell you, you're recording still, so I don't know.
I don't know how to stop it, so let's.
Okay. Just so nobody says anything. I mean.
Oh, I got it.
There you
Stop
go.
recording. There we go.